The howl of a wolf is a sound that chills the very marrow of our bones. Even today, it still raises the most primitive fears. A howling wolf is one that invites its own death sentence. In Western Europe, most countries have relentlessly hunted down all their wolves. But in northern Spain, the wolf has slipped through the noose of extinction. Here, in the mountains, often within sight of the tiny villages, the wolves continue to hold out. Unpredictable, elusive, and immensely strong. They have become the object of fierce controversy. Northern Spain is a far cry from the Sunshine Coasts. Storms from the Atlantic bring snow to its rugged limestone mountains. It's a wilderness where European vultures still fly, ever watchful for a carcass or the remains of a kill. You might expect wolves in these lonely mountains, but they also live within sight of Spain's northern beaches. This is the resort of Vigo, in Galicia. Up in the hills above the sunbathers, the wolf may be watching. In villages further inland, there is fear and hatred of wolves. In the 1970s, a child was attacked in this village near Orense. But the major source of anger today is that sheep, cattle, and goats are being killed. Farmers are convinced it's the work of wolves, although without doubt many of the attacks are made by domestic dogs who run wild. But it's the wolf that gets the blame. Now it is in the thick of a row about compensation for the damage.
Hemos hecho unas solicitudes, nadie nos ha contestado nada. ¿Qué vamos a decir nosotros de la administración?
Here, 2 shepherds lost more than 50 sheep, and 30 more were injured, near Toro, north of Salamanca. In Europe, hatred of the wolf goes back to the times when wolves murdered flocks of sheep and made men poor every night. Archive scenes from Yugoslavia show that even in quite recent days, dogs were trained to fight wolves to the death. Hunters made a living trapping and poisoning wolves. The corpses were paraded through the village. Every family was obliged to give food and wine in return for being rid of the killers. From the beginning, the wolf has engaged our imagination as no other animal. To this day, it still lurks in the back of European minds as a dark, distant terror. But in Spain today, that fear remains a reality. It's a country which still has wild and unspoilt places, echoes of an older Europe, where mules and donkeys are used as draft animals, where herdsmen still accompany their stock in all weathers. One of Spain's wolf specialists lives in the region of Galicia in the northwest. Felipe Bárcena is a biologist at the nearby University of Santiago. He's also the Count of Torrecedera. Over the past 20 years, Bárcena has collected the bodies of several hundred wolves killed in this region. Spanish or Iberian wolves are a separate race, with characteristic dark markings on the front legs. Like all true wolves, they're very different from dogs. In fact, Bárcena believes that wolves kill stray dogs if they outnumber them. A wolf has stronger teeth and more powerful jaws. In Spain, a well-grown male wolf can be about as long as a person is tall, up to 6 feet from nose to tail. This one was shot after attacking a small horse. Wolves have fascinated Bárcena since childhood, but even he has only ever caught the most fleeting glimpses of them in the wild. Hounded by man, the last wolves have learned to move like shadows. Biologists have precious little to go on when investigating the Spanish wolf. Guillermo Palomero of Cantabria University has to rely on one of the few things that even wolves cannot always hide.
I think these are wolf tracks. It's very difficult to distinguish wolf tracks from dogs. Many studies have been made on the tracks of wolves and dogs, and no significant differences have been found. But from my experience, these tracks here are wolves.
A wolf track is large, up to 4 inches across, and it's one of the very few clues that this evasive animal gives of its whereabouts. The Cantabrian Mountains in late winter. The carcass of a donkey lies out in the snow, attended by a golden eagle. Ravens mob the eagle while they wait their turn. Ravens often follow eagles, and sometimes wolves, in the hope of eventually getting something to eat. A hill fox is trying to feed, but the eagle is the more powerful of the two. A scrap of meat away from the carcass has attracted the fox's attention, and it tries to run in for it. Foxes are sometimes killed by eagles if they're caught unawares. But now the eagle is suddenly nervous. The chamois above have been alarmed too. The owners are returning for the carcass. They are very cautious out in the open, even though they left the kill only a few hours ago. They've had to be wary to survive. Generally, wolves are shot on sight in Spain. To film 3 wolves together is remarkable. This is probably a pair with one of last year's youngsters. Except in a few places, big packs find it hard to exist because of lack of large prey. Poisoning and hunting may have taken their toll of pack numbers too. Wolves were once the most widely distributed mammal in Europe. Now they're against the wall. The slightest noise may be the prelude to a rifle shot, and they're constantly alert for any sound or the slightest whiff of danger. The eagle has returned, but it's come too close. If it's not careful, the wolves will make it clear who's in charge. One of them makes a run at the eagle. The eagle takes flight. It's the wolves that rule this mountain kingdom. Eventually, having gorged themselves, the wolves make off. They're generally territorial animals. They mark their ground in two ways, by howling and by scent marking. As a wolf moves, its nose is constantly at work. The ground is dotted with clues. Scent is probably a wolf's greatest source of information. Another wolf, a fox, a dog, a human, or perhaps even a meal under the snow. But little has been known until recently about the rare Spanish wolf's furtive way of life. Biologists have now begun detailed research. Vicente Urios and his team hardly ever catch sight of the wolves in their study area. So some months ago, they trapped several and put radio collars on them to follow their daily movements with a receiver. Each wolf sends out a different radio signal, and every day the team plot where individuals have gone. After months of work, they've discovered that many wolves have become loners, traveling extensively, maybe ranging up to 20 miles a night, often without pausing. But perhaps the most surprising thing is that wolves can exist undetected, cheek by jowl, with man. This female even brought up a litter of cubs just a few hundred yards from a village. This wolf doesn't yet have a collar. It has evaded every attempt the scientists have made to catch it. In the early mornings, before man is about, a wolf may go hunting in the fields near the village. It'll grab a mouse if it can't find anything larger. Nothing is too small for an opportunist. Roe deer are a wolf's natural prey, but all too often they're difficult to come by because man likes to hunt them too. A hare is snapped up and quickly dispatched. Anything left over is buried. The wolf will almost certainly remember where it has hidden it, and on a dark and hungry winter's day, come and dig it up again. One occasion when solitary wolves seek the company of others is at mating time. Why wolves howl has always been a mystery. It may be to assemble the pack before hunting, or as an expression of